Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Starting Park on Twitter, and we have a fun show for you guys today. Our Kansas review, my at-track experience review with Brad Smith Motorsports, and our ARCA East Nashville preview. So we got a big show for you guys today. Can't wait for you guys to join me for this fun show. We're going to go through my little intro that you guys know I go through at the beginning of every show, and we will jump right into the ARCA action, as I'm sure you guys are eager to hear me talk about it. So you guys know the drill, of course, follow me on social media at Starting Parker on Twitter for ARCA news and updates, lower budget team news and updates, and sometimes we post some good old Starting Park picks and lower budget team picks, all that fun stuff. Like and subscribe to the channel. We just hit over 1,100 subs. Turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. We go live every Tuesday and Thursday, and sometimes we'll go live on a Wednesday. And, of course, check out theracingexperts.com for all NASCAR media-related content. Whew. Oh, I love that intro. So let's get right into it, shall we? Kansas Speedway. Ever since Iowa Speedway kind of closed down, they didn't really necessarily close down, but NASCAR is not going to it anymore is what I mean. Kansas Speedway has kind of become my main home track. Yeah, I still go to Iowa Speedway for the ARCA races, the ARCA race and the IndyCar races, but Kansas Speedway has now kind of taken over as my main home track, which I hate because you guys know how much of an advocate I am for Iowa Speedway. But hey, Kansas Speedway is still an awesome track, so glad that that track is only about 3 hours away from my house, so it's a very simple drive. As you guys may have known, I was helping out the 48 team yet again, Brad Smith Motorsports. We were running the Chevrolet this weekend. I thought we were going to be running the Ford. And basically kind of the term that Brad told me, and I'll be honest with here with you guys. Basically, Brad is just trying to get every damn lap he can out of that car because, I mentioned it before on the show when the Ford becomes the primary and Brad's backup Ford is ready to go as a backup car if necessary. It's very well possible that when the Chevrolet runs its last race, that's literally it for that car. That car is, I will say, it's not in really good shape. The fact that it's still as fast as it is, I think shows that Brad still got a pretty decent motor. And remember that motor came from Ken Schrader's team, so it really goes to show you how far a good motor can still take a not well prepped car. And it's still no slag on Brad Smith and that team, and we all worked our asses off. But it really does go to show you how much a good motor can even take one of the lower tier cars. But yeah, we did have the Chevrolet this weekend. We'll go through the race itself, and I'll kind of add in my own experiences at the track. Obviously, this race weekend had the big 5-hour test session. It usually happens at Pocono, but this year they moved it to Kansas, which I think is honestly a better idea. I feel like it gives a better chance for these young kids to learn intermediates because you only go to Pocono once a year now. I don't feel like running extra laps at Pocono is honestly beneficial. I think it actually is more beneficial to run a track like Kansas because there's a lot more tracks that are similar to Kansas in terms of shape and in terms of the way they drive. So I think it was definitely a better option to move that test session to Kansas. Fortunately, Mother Nature was not going to let us have that full 5 hours. Basically, right when I got to the track on Friday, exactly at 9 a.m., because I wanted to be there for the whole session, it was raining pretty hard. So I actually got back in my truck, drove out to the local gas station, and picked up some breakfast and took my time. Waited in the truck for about 15 minutes, finally decided the rain was let up enough to walk around the garage area. Got some good pictures. You guys saw I posted a picture of Tony Breidinger's 55 Victoria's Secret car, one of the coolest looking cars in the garage. A lot of the teams were still on kind of under tarps, under tents. Nobody was really doing much. It was just kind of keep the car dry and just kind of chill out. The teams that did show up, the teams that didn't show up obviously were us. Brad Smith did not show up to this test. And why so? I mean, the Chevrolet, it doesn't need any extra unnecessary laps. And the 45 of Tony Cosentino also did not show up. I believe those were the only organizations to not show up to that test. I believe everybody else did. And we did have some entries there that were literally just there to run practice. We had the 6 of LeVar Scott. He was actually running his same car from Dover. He was running the same car from Dover. So it was kind of weird. We had 2 6 cars out by the rep stable. I kind of had to do a double take. And then I just kind of put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, oh, yeah, they're here to have LeVar. Even though he's not running the race, it's actually a good opportunity for LeVar to get some extra track time. It's a good opportunity for him to get some extra laps. And they did take advantage of it. I think he ran like at least 30 to 40 laps. So he definitely ran quite a few laps. We had Kimmel Racing. They ran 2 cars in that test session. They had a taped up number 68. They would later take the tape off. That car wasn't actually used. It was more of just as an emergency backup car, but I'm not 100% sure if they did run laps in both cars, considering both cars were the exact same wrap and both were numbered 69. It is possible that they used both cars because it's just kind of hard to tell. It is kind of hard to tell if they used both cars because it's the exact same thing. There's no way to tell the difference between the two. Other than that, everyone else kind of ran the test, and you could tell there were some teams that weren't pushing it that hard. They really were using this as a test session. Got some pretty cool photos of what appeared to be height sensors. I had no idea that teams use this. It was pretty cool to see that all the Venturini cars and the DGR car were running these really cool sensors. And shout out to all the teams, Jesse Love, the Venturini Twitter account, and John Hunter Nemechek for replying to that question of literally I had no idea what these were. And they were nice enough to explain what they are and what they were used for. So shout out to them for explaining that. Unfortunately, the big moment of the test session that you guys saw in my account, Andy Jankowiak, who at the time was in the top 10 fastest cars. I mean, his Toyota was fast. That car grenaded off of turn 2. An oil line let loose. Was not an engine like I had thought. Because just the way it went up in flames, you just think it was just a massive engine failure, but it was really just an oil line. And he didn't want to junk the car, so he kept trying to fight it, and eventually, I guess somehow he saw the grass, so he just jerked the car into the grass and barreled out of that thing. The car was just melted. The front end was just melted to the ground. I mean, it's not a total loss. The engine's probably a total loss, but it's definitely not a total loss. The chassis can be reused, just needs cleaned up. The windshield, back shield, it can still be reused. They just need cleaned up. The front nose is probably a total loss. It was pretty crisp, as they call it. So, yeah, that was kind of a heartbreak. They did unload their backup car, which was actually their Talladega primary, trying to use parts to get their primary fixed, but it was no available. The 73 did withdraw, leaving us down to 27. So now that brings us to actual race day. Jesse Love, by the way, was the quickest in the test session by a pretty decent margin, and it pretty much set the standard. He was fastest in single lap, 5 lap, and 10 lap averages. He was clearly the fastest car of that test session and would eventually, spoiler alert, prove to be the fastest car of the entire weekend. So we come to Friday, and yeah, Brad texted us saying, we got to be on time, guys. We got a lot of work to do. And he was not kidding. We got there at 6, got the car unloaded, not without some trouble. The right front clipped the wheel well of a trailer, so it basically ripped part of the front nose off. So literally 10 minutes into the day, and we'd already ripped the front nose off the car. But that nose has seen 4 years of action, and somehow it's still going. It was easily fixed. We just kind of buffed it back in place, put some tape over it, and boom, we're good. So got that nose fixed. There was something in the left front that we had to – I couldn't quite understand what it was, but there was something in the left front to help the car turn that we just couldn't get the nut through because it had bent itself. Again, this, like I said, the Chevrolet is on its last legs. A lot of things are bent. A lot of things are just not working properly anymore. And somehow this car is still running as fast as it is, which, like, again, it's one of those anomalies. It's like the car is not in the best of shape, and yet it's still going out there and running over 160 miles per hour, which really goes to show you in general how well prepped even in general race cars really are. So we spent hours and hours, and I mean hours on this one little part on the left front. Meanwhile, I fueled the car in the rear, getting that ready for tech. Tires were all aired up for tech. But again, this problem on the left front, we couldn't get to tech. So everyone else had gotten through tech. and practice was literally just about to start. And mercifully, Brad said, we got to get through tech. So basically, while practice had just started, we were going through tech, finished tech, and unfortunately, we were 30 pounds underweight on the right side. Just more issues. Like I said, it was just issue after issue after issue. It's like, God dang, it's like it shows you how much these lower budget teams really struggle. Like, I'm trying to laugh and smile about it, but I'm telling you guys, in the heat of that moment, when they told me we were 30 pounds underweight, I'm just, my heart just sank. I'm like, come on. We have literally beat the crap out of ourselves all morning just to be told that we're 30 pounds underweight. Thankfully, Brad had some weight, some lead weight laying around in the truck somewhere. So we mercifully took the rear tire off, got the hammer out because, Brad's weight compartments are kind of crunched in. If you guys know what I'm talking about, where they put the lead in the cars. The area where we put the lead in there was kind of crunched in from all the years that it's been used. So we had to take like a little a chisel and a hammer, and I was beating the ever-living crap out of these. Again, it's not the most efficient way to do it, but I was beating the crap out of them. Finally got the lead to move up, slid the new piece in. It was actually a 35-pound weight, so we were actually 5 pounds overweight, but again, it is what it is. They cleared us either way. As long as we were around the correct weight, they let us go. So we got the tire back on, but we missed practice, and qualifying was right after practice, so we missed qualifying. But again, no big deal. ARCA was nice enough to work with us, just saying, got to move the car over to impound. You guys can make your final adjustments there, but you guys got to move the car to impound. So we moved the car to the impound position, made our final adjustments there, and, well, we all stood in the hauler and basically or the trailer. I wish we had a hauler. And basically just shook everyone's hand because somehow we got this car out on the grid. That we got the nut to go through, so the left front would turn properly. The front nose was all taped up from our little incident at the beginning of the day, and we were ready to start the race, man. And we would plan to go the distance. Like, we hadn't done all this work just to, start and park. We were gonna go the distance. That we had good tires. Brad was able to get his hands on a 2-lap set of tires, literally nowhere at all. Like 2 laps at Kansas is hardly anywhere. So really good set of tires for us. I was wearing my Fun Levine suit. I'm sure you guys saw the pictures again on my Twitter. I was wearing my Fun Levine suit, wearing my Pit Vipers, looking like a cool guy out there. It's funny. They did the driver intros. And I was telling the guys, like, we got to hype Brad up. We got to hype him up. So when they did the driver intros for Brad Smith, and they came and showed the car on camera, I hope for the people who were there that were actually at the track and saw us, like, we were just cheering our asses off, just saying, like, yeah, go Brad. We were just like a bunch of fools down there, but we were having so much fun. So yeah, Brad gets in the car, go back to the box. And, basically I just say on the radio, we worked our asses off. Let's have a good day. 100 laps. You've done this 1,000 times, Brad. Let's have some fun. And I will say the start was about what it usually is. Brad likes to lag back at the start, kind of get a running start at the field, if that makes sense. Like, he'll lag far back and then get kind of a running start. So the race started. Again, I'll kind of give my perception of the race, and then we'll actually get into the actual race itself because it's kind of easier to tell the story like that. So we got started, and of course, we're just running our own race. We're last in line, but we are right there with the 03 car of Club. And I'm telling him on the radio, like, I know you're afraid to pass him, but you are faster than him down the straightaway, and he was. Brad said he was just going to follow him, though, as he saw the leaders coming up in his mirror. And yeah, you don't want to risk passing someone, especially when you're like your 2 slow lap cars. You don't want to risk trying to go side by side when the leaders are coming up on you. So he just kind of rides behind the 03 as they go through the leaders. We had an early caution 6 laps in for Sean Core. That kind of bunched us up. And it was at this point where, unfortunately, we couldn't hear the spotter anymore. we tried to kind of, I'm going to be honest with you, we kind of tried to keep it a little bit of a secret, but obviously ARCA can listen into all radios. The restart went green. Brad actually passed the 0-3 and was actually closing in on the 0-6. We were actually running about a second a lap faster than him. I mean, like I said, this car, for as not in the best shape as it was, we have a good motor in this car. And we were actually running down the 0-6 until we had, I think, yet another caution. Again, we were on pit road, so I couldn't see every single yellow. I don't know if it was Shankor again or a piece of debris that came out. Yeah, not 100% sure about that. But unfortunately, it was during that caution. Built engine. It was not an Elmore. It was not an Elmore, John Schultzke in the chat, but it was not it was a Ken Schrader engine. It's not an Elmore though, but it was a motor that he got from Ken Schrader after our engine blew up at Kansas in the fall of 21. He got a new engine from Schrader. So it's a good motor. I mean, it really is a good motor. Like if only we could prep this car and had time to really go through it, Brad could be a lot more competitive. It's just, if you take out the motor, the components of the car are just not in the best shape. That's the real problem with it. So yeah, back to what I was saying. The official comes over and basically says, can he hear his spotter? And I have to be honest, and you can't lie to the damn officials. I know people have in the past, but I can't lie to them. So I just said I can't. And, one of our PR ladies, she's trying to call the spotter, finally gets a hold of him, and he can hear me and Brad just fine, but he just can't talk back, and that hurts even more. He could hear us just fine. Brad and I arguing lap after lap after lap. Can you hear him? And he could hear us. He just couldn't. We couldn't hear him. And they said that you got to fix that. So another caution came out. Again, I don't really remember for what, because we were so invested into what was going on. I got the gear ready. He had come down pit road, but we didn't have the sign out. So he didn't know where his box was. And unfortunately, it was during that caution, though, they said, you either got to find something or you're done. And well, with such a short race, I wasn't able to get to my truck with a new radio, race up to the spotter stand and give him a new radio. We didn't have a spare radio. We didn't have a channel 2. Brad's car is not really capable of going to channel 2. His radio is not that good in his car either. So unfortunately, Brad gave this saying over the radio, we're done. And I'm telling you, it hurt. It hurt because our tires were good. The car was fast for what it was. We were definitely faster than the 0-3, 6 or 0-6 and 0. We were definitely faster than them in terms of actual on-track speed. And I think we could have actually beaten them. But we'll never know for sure. But I do think we could have beaten them. We had 4 tires in the pits. More than likely, we were going to change right side tires at the caution. That was my plan. Just telling Brad, like, hey, why don't we put on these right sides just to be safe? Because I think we easily could have outran both the Peterson cars. Because by the end of the race, those guys were struggling. And I think, we would have been struggling too, but I think we would have been able to pass them. So it just sucks. It sucks, man. After all we went through in that morning, not even a mechanical problem. Car was running just fine. Brad said the car was just fine for what that car is capable of. A radio issue. Not a mechanical problem. A radio issue is the thing that knocked us out. And just, it sucks, man. But hey, that's racing. What are you going to do? So we loaded up mercifully. I believe we ended up, looking at the results here, we ended up 24th, when in reality, like I said, I want to say we were faster than the 0, 0-6, and 0-3. We easily could have ended up probably at best 18th had we finished the race. So again, it is what it is. You can't help it, but it's one of those what might have been races. It's like fall of 2021 Kansas when we had the movie people there. We blew up in practice. What might have been for that race. It sucks, but a lot of people in the racing business go through that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the story with Brad there. Loading up that car was not very fun. Loading him up in the trailer, guys, it's hard getting the ratchet straps on, making sure it's hooked in the right spots. I mean, a lot goes into this stuff, man. But I'll say this to any young fan who watches this podcast and is interested in doing these crew gigs. You can go apply for, these higher budget teams. You can go apply for higher teams. But I'm telling you, you're not going to get as much experience as you would working for guys like Brad Smith, Wayne Peterson, and Andy Hillenberg. They will teach you the right way to do it, and they will teach you, and will not necessarily teach you, they'll just tell you to go do it. Like, they will tell you what to do, and you just got to figure it out. And personally, in my opinion, that's the best way to do it. So Brad's done to me. That's what, when Andy offers tips, he just tells me, this is what you got to do. Do it. And you just got to figure out the best you can. And I like that. But the one thing I do find funny is that I remember to recall multiple times in the Cup Series when it was well documented that people could not hear their spotters, but they didn't get parked. And yet we were parked. So it just sucks because I've seen so many times where people will get parked for having their no radio, but yet some people don't get parked for not having radio issues. Again, to each your own. It's behind me now, but it is what it is. Let's get into the actual race now. I went back and watched the race because obviously I was so focused on Brad's stuff. The race got started. We'll now get into the actual race. Jesse Love was on the pole. Connor Mosack was second. Dean Thompson, in one of his few starts for Venturini this year in the 25, was third. And fourth was the 15 of Amber Balkan, a great qualifying effort by her. And fifth was Taylor Gray and Tricon's return to ARCA Series. My favorites for coming into this race was Dean Thompson because of his experience level. But I knew Jesse Love was also going to be tough to beat, knowing that they had the exact same car that Corey Heim won with last year. It was the exact same car, just a brand new wrap. That was the only difference. So, and you could tell last year Corey Heim was unbeatable, and this year that car was just simply unbeatable. It really wasn't. From the very start, he pulled away to a decent-sized lead. Taylor Gray quickly made his way up to second. Connor Mosack, I would say this is probably one of the more weaker races that I've ever seen the 18 car run. No laps led for the 18 car of Joe Gibbs. And it makes me wonder, especially without Ty Gibbs in the series and this race not being for William Sawalich, how much money are they really putting into the 18 for this race? Because the 18 did not do much. But remember, this also was Connor Mosack's first trip to Kansas. So his lack of experience might have also been a factor there as well. But Jesse Love quickly pulled out to a big lead. Taylor Gray was second. Dean Thompson was third. Amber had kind of fallen back through the pack a little bit. She had kind of fallen down to 10th. Tony Breidinger, Cody Coughlin went 3 wide at the start. We did have some starting parks early in this race. Zachary Tinkle was in the 0-1. He didn't want to do a starting park, but he was the only driver available, so he had to do it. He starting parked the 0-1 after 3 laps. Tim Monroe starting parked the 10 after 8 laps. Gage Rogers in the 12 starting parked the 12 after 20 laps. We were not a starting park, but obviously we fell out after 27 laps, so we'll just kind of get through those early exits. But yeah, Jesse Love had continued to pull out to a big lead. Notable, the 2 of Andres Perez de Lara, and this move kind of confused me. Now, I noticed that, yes, they had brought the 6 for LeVar Scott to do the test. Andres was actually testing a different car, but he actually ended up running LeVar Scott's car in the Kansas race. If you noticed on the broadcast, Andres was actually running a blue number 2 car. That's because it was actually the exact same car that LeVar had tested. I'm like, why is that? Why would they put a car that ran at Dover, a track at Kansas? And I don't think that car was as strong as the car that Andres was running and testing, but clearly they made some sort of decision there. And I don't know if it was the right one, but if you guys were wondering why Andres was running a blue car, it's because it was actually LeVar's car that he was running, not his own. I remember loading that car up when I was over in the truck garage there. I saw him loading it up, and I was really, really confused. But yeah, the race went on. Early showing surprising. Tony Cosentino and that 45 team, they were running in the top 10 on pure pace. That was cool to see. Tony Cosentino has actually done a great job so far this year for that. I don't want to call them a lower budget team. They don't have the funding, obviously, to compete for wins, but they are definitely in the I would say definitely the mid-tier level of ARCA teams. The teams that can absolutely run top 10, top 15 every week when we get these decent 25-plus car fields. We did have our first caution, again, on lap 6. I don't know, was it for this 8 of Sean Corr? It was either on lap 26 or lap 7. Sean Corr in the terrible, no good, very bad weekend. He crashed in practice, had some rear damage to practice, and crashed like 3 or 4 times in the race. He had a rough race, did Sean Corr. Went back green going again. We did have some battling for the lead. Again, we saw that the 17 could get there, but it was one of those cases where the 17 of Taylor Gray could get there and get there and get there. But the 20, man, that car was just locked to the ground, and it went through those corners beautifully. The one thing you guys also noted on the broadcast is that the 17 actually was quite skewed. If you really looked at the car, you could tell just how much more skewed out the 17 was rather than the 20. So, yeah, I thought that was a cool note too. The 17 was really skewed and trimmed out, whereas the 20 was not. And you could tell that the 17's advantage was down the straightaways, where the 20's advantage, I feel like, was through the corners. I don't know if anyone else kind of picked up on that, but I feel like that's where Jesse was really gaining his time, was the corners. Whereas everyone else may have had more straightaway speed, he really had the corner speed. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, I would rather have corner speed than straightaway speed, especially on these long runs that, these ARCA races can sometimes get. So we go back green. The 06 was the free pass there. We run 13 more laps. Not much changes. Like I said, Jesse Love pulls away more. Dean Thompson and Taylor Gray battling for second. Connor Mosek and Jack Wood are kind of battling for 4th and 5th. Andres Perez, again, he's just kind of running his own race. Not necessarily running good, but he's not running bad. But I just wonder, was that move to run LeVar's car the right move? Because now he's not running that competitive. He's not running as competitive as I thought he would. Cody Coughlin, Frankie Muniz, they were kind of in their own battle as well. Everyone was kind of split off into tandem battles. You didn't really have a large clump of cars. You had to go down to about 10th. Then you had the 35, 55, 74, and 66 that were kind of running themselves together until a long run happened. Then eventually everyone got spread out. So we had another 13-lap run until another caution. Again, I don't know if that was for Corr or not. I don't remember off the top of my head because I watched this race a couple days ago. But we did have another caution. No one was out of the race yet, just a couple of cautions. Free pass was the 11 of Josh Rayom. They are running this race in preparation for future races of Rayom's brother. Yes, Rayom Brothers Racing, Josh Rayom's younger brother, will be running this ARCA car eventually. So that's kind of cool to see. It was kind of a shakedown race for Josh Rayom, but it was kind of an eventful weekend. I can't go into the full details of what happened, but the weekend was not perfect between Josh Rayom and Fast Track, but that's a story that has to be kept under wraps, unfortunately. But yeah, no, that wasn't the best weekend. Wasn't the best weekend for Josh Rayom overall. But yeah, the race got going again. We had a new player for the lead. Dean Thompson had an amazing 3-wide pass for the lead. But he lost it, but he lost the lead very quickly after that. He took it 3 wide, almost had the lead, but the 20 again with that great corner speed got the lead back. Made it to the halfway break, lap 50. I actually thought it was a regular caution, but no, it was just the halfway break yellow. And at this point, we still had 23 of our 27 starters still on the track. And lots of – I thought there was going to be more attrition in this race. We did see a little bit later down the line, but not a lot of attrition. Not a lot of attrition that I was expecting. Everyone was kind of spread out and kept their own business. Coming back from the break, we did see more signs of life. It looked like that the other cars had really made good adjustments. Thompson looked like Love's equal. It looked like maybe the 17 had kind of fallen off just a bit. And the 18, it's like the 18 just didn't have it. The 18 could hang up there for a couple laps, but eventually Connor Mosack would just kind of fade away. And he really wasn't challenged for any other positions. He just kind of riding his own race. And like I said, one of the more weaker races I've seen the 18 run. So to me, it's wondering if JGR is putting as much effort into that 18 car as they were when Ty Gibbs was. Because when Ty Gibbs was, he was over like a second faster than the field. And now that the 18 is really starting to show weakness, which is interesting because I don't think anyone really expected to see that. We did kind of have the big moment of the race. And I really feel, Jason Kitzmiller gets a lot of crap for crashing a lot, but this one wasn't even his fault. We had a caution on lap 65. Caution on lap 65. And I just felt so bad for him. Amber Balkin was riding right behind Amber Balkin. Amber got into the wall, and it kind of exact spot where Kyle Larson did. Kind of got a little fishy and just went right up into the track, and it looked like she just hooked the 97 right down the middle of the backstretch. It was like, really? She hit the wall and just basically came back out and just turned the 97, even though he had like no idea what happened. So we were actually continuing to load up, and then all of a sudden, here comes the 97 car crashed. And I just feel bad for them because it's just kind of the story of Jason Kitzmiller and ARCA. He crashes a lot, and a lot of the times it's not his own fault. And I feel bad for him in this instance. Amber Balkin this year has kind of had some rough, even though she had a great run at Daytona, she was all over the place. We'll put it like that. She had a rocket ship of a car, but she was all over the place. She was just high line, low lane, contact on the left side, contact on the right side, and somehow she didn't wreck. She had a mechanical failure at Talladega, which kind of took her out early. And she has the speed in her car. Obviously it's a good Venturini car, but when you get into the wall, and I understand you want to get off the wall, but it's like almost like she overcorrected from the wall too hard, and just innocently there was the 97. But really rough weekend overall for CR7 as they would crash out in the truck race as well. So 2 crashed vehicles for CR7, and that's just kind of been the story of that team over the last couple of years. Cody Robar's team has had a rough go. And I love Cody Robar. He's awesome, but it's just that team cannot buy a break. They really cannot. And I hate to see him get taken out like that. Amber would also fall out of the race 7 laps later due to suspension issues. Like I said, she really knocked the wall down with that 15 car, and she would later retire with suspension issues. It was at this rate that we finally did see some action for the lead. Taylor Gray was able to legitimately take the lead, something I did not expect to see. He would lead laps 60 and 61. Jesse Love was able to get back by for 1 lap. Taylor Gray would then lead the next lap, but then Jesse Love was finally able to complete the pass again. We went back to green on lap 74, and then we saw, in my opinion, the Reese sweep move of the race. The 20 and the 17 were battling for the lead, coming down the front straightaway, and then the 25 just gets this mega-ass run. I'm talking an amazing run, takes it 3 wide, and does a textbook ride-the-wall 3 wide pass. An amazing move by Dean Thompson. Frankly, I would say this is the most improvement I've ever seen out of Dean Thompson. Probably the best thing I've ever seen out of Dean Thompson. And it's great to see because he really did nothing in that 40 truck last year for Nice. So the fact that he's actually showing competitiveness and is doing good for Venturini is great to see. If only he just had that luck in trucks. I've never seen someone with a high-profile ride have more bad luck than Dean Thompson. Literally all of his crashes this year in the truck series have not been his fault. How many of his truck series crashes this year have been his fault? But yeah, just going back to ARCA, he led the race, but unfortunately, he was only for 1 lap. Jesse Love would get back by. We would have one more incident a couple laps later. The caution periods took a little bit longer than they probably should have. 9 laps for yellow, 8 laps for yellow. Like, man, we don't really need to take this long for yellow, guys. At most, if I feel like if the yellow is going to take more than 5 laps, we need to red flag it. No reason why a caution should be 8 laps unless it's like a 15-car pileup. Needless to say, we went back to green with 16 laps to go, and we had a great battle for the finish. The 20 had to run 14 perfect laps to get this win. The 25 was right on his ass. And I'll say, not as his bumper, on his ass. And if either of them screwed up, the 17 was right there. And lap after lap after lap. It's like they were separated by less than a second. I mean, great racing. They weren't side by side, but they were right there with each other. One screw up from other, and the other was going to take advantage. Unfortunately for Taylor Gray, he was the first one to mess up, as with 4 laps to go, he would hit the wall. It didn't hurt the speed of his car, but hurt the downforce. Therefore, he was kind of mathematically eliminated. Without the proper downforce, he couldn't be competitive. And it looked like Jesse Love had it in the bag coming to the final, coming to the final corner. And, man, I'll give credit to Thompson. It's like he just said, throwing caution to the wind. I don't even know if he lifted in 3 and 4. You can run Kansas wide open. It's just not easy to do. I would like to know if he actually did not run that final corner on brakes at all. I think he ran that corner wide open. Jesse went to the bottom. Thompson ran the top. I'm pretty sure he ran that wide open. He closed and closed and closed, but he ran out of time. But one more lap, and I will say if that was coming to the white flag, I think the 25 would have got that win because he had such a run building to the 20 that I don't think he would have been able to hold Dean Thompson off. It's one of those races where you really wish you could have gotten one more lap because that 25 was hauling ass towards that 20. But nope, Jesse Love wins. The 20 goes 2 in a row, 2 wins in a row from Talladega and this race. And Venturini wins again. If you could actually say almost, 3 wins in a row, actually, for the 20. ARCA East at Dover and Kansas and Talladega. So the 20 car for Venturini is kind of becoming the winning car for sure. I would say great finish. Good for Dean Thompson, a much-deserved top 5 finish. Had to feel good for him. Taylor Gray would finish 3rd. Connor Mosek would finish 4th. Jack Wood would finish 5th. Andres Perez de Lara, one of the other title contenders, like I said, running LeVar's car, really didn't do much in this race. 6th place. Cody Coughlin, 7th. Frankie Muniz in his first Kansas start, 8th. Not the best out of Frankie. I figured he would have been a little bit better. He did go a lap down at the lap 50 caution, so the fact that he could recover to that finish alone is good enough. 9th for Christian Rose, 10th for Greg Van Alst. Greg Van Alst was actually debuting the Mustang body, so it wouldn't shock me if maybe the reason why they didn't run as good as I thought they would is maybe they were just trying to figure out this new Mustang body. Tony Breidinger finished 11th, and Mandy Chick was 12th. John Garrett for Fast Track Racing, or Veer Motorsports, pretty much the same thing, was 13th. Scott Melton was 14th. Thankfully, he had a clean race. Tony Cosentino, unfortunately, in that last run was really struggling in those last 5 laps. Actually finished the race on pit road. He was 15th. Sean Corr, and just a horrible day for him, 16th. Matt Wilson, the car that was running the X pipes, gotta love it. One of the last few cars that's genuinely running X pipes for Eric Caudell. He hit the wall early in the race. That was the lap 6 caution I forgot to mention. They finished that race. Josh Riom mysteriously parked the car with 8 laps to go. Transmission issue. 18th. Alex Clubb, 19th. AJ Moyer and Kevin Hinkle, the 2 Peterson entries, did finish the race in 20th and 21st. Amber Balkin was 22nd. Jason Kitzmiller was 23rd. Of course, we were 24th. Gage Rogers, 25th. Tim Monroe, 26th. And Zachary Tinkle was 27th. Overall, I thought the race was okay. Definitely what I said on the preview show. More cars. Josh did lose the transmission. Okay, thank you. More cars definitely helped this race, and it's the one thing I've been saying about these big track ARCA races. If we could just get more cars, these races would be very good. I mean, I would go so far to say that the truck race, ARCA did better than the truck race in terms of a finish. And I mean that. ARCA Race, in my opinion, was a better finish than the truck race. And so it's just like, I feel like it's just, again, it's the same old thing I've said for a long time. It's fun to joke about ARCA, but they really have improved the racing over the last couple years. You can't deny that. In my opinion, the truck series, I love the truck series. I love the trucks, the look of them, the super trucks. I miss when they were called the super trucks. But in my opinion, the truck series has gone a little downhill. I really do feel that way. It has gone a little downhill. And ARCA, I feel like, has gone up. It's, I don't know, man. I just feel like the competitive level in trucks. I don't know. It's like, they always say the same guys win every week. I feel like that's kind of the same for the truck series. In ARCA, yeah, you can say the same guys win every week, but at least for Venturini, it's different drivers. So at least different drivers are winning every week, even though it's the same equipment. It is what it is, though. Yeah, I would say a solid race overall. They should not be ashamed about that. Very good race. Out of a, let's see here. What do we give this race out of a 10? I'll give it a 7. I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10. Not perfect, but not a bad race by any means. Not bad by any means, but not perfect, of course. Point standings following this race, obviously with Jesse Love leading the most laps. He overtakes Frankie Muniz by 2 points following this race. Jack Wood is third, but remember, he's not running the whole season, so he doesn't really count. Greg Van Alst is down in fourth. Drenes Perez Delar is in fifth. Tony Cosentino's in sixth. Christian Rose is in seventh. Sean Corr is not full-time. Tony Breidinger is not full-time. John Garrett's technically down in 10th. Mandy Chick, I don't know how many races she is running. I don't know if AJ Moyer's full-time. And I think the real next full-time driver is Brad Smith down in 15. So it'll take a couple more races for the full-time drivers to really jump up in the point standings, as we are only 4 races into the year. But over this summer stretch is really when ARCA will do more of the races. I will say, I don't want to say it right now, but it is looking likely that what we kind of predicted at the beginning of the year, that this was Jesse Little. God, who remembers Jesse Little? Jesse Love's title to lose. We kind of said that at the beginning of the year. We said it was a long shot for Greg Van Alst to maybe win the championship, or Andres Perez de Lara. Following Daytona, and especially Phoenix, it looked like it might not go to Jesse Love. But here we are 2 races later, and, well, we're kind of reaping what we sowed. So I don't want to give him the championship just yet, but he's now got the championship lead, only by 2 points over Frankie Muniz, but other title contenders such as Greg Van Alst and Delara. 17 points for Van Alst and 22 points for Delara. I just feel like unless Jesse Love has an early engine failure, another early crash in a big field, that's going to be too hard for them to climb up. So we all knew this was Jesse's little titles to lose, but we'll just see. The owner point standings for this race, now, especially now that we're 4 races into the year, we have a better look at the owner points right now. And it does give us a little bit bigger of an insight right now. Max Siegel's 2 car is currently leads the points. Joe Gibbs is 18 is second, and Mark Rett's 30 car is third. The 20 for Billy Venturini is currently down in 4th. So noted that even though Andres is not leading the driver points, the Max Siegel 2 car is actually leading the Owners' Championship right now. And it really comes down to the fact that LeVar Scott at Daytona had a top 5 finish. So the 2 car in general has great owner points. And that's why, for Andres, even if he's not going after the Drivers' Championship eventually, you got to go for that precious Owners' Championship, because I believe the Owners' Championship does pay more. So that was ARCA Kansas. Again, fun weekend overall. Always love working with Brad Smith. Just wish the luck could have went better for us. And a good race overall. I'm not going to call it a great race, but I'll call it a good race. It was a good race. But definitely better than the last few Kansas races, that's for sure. Now we get into ARCA East. And, this is a series that we haven't been the most positive about. Series has kind of struggled for car counts this year, and this year is kind of no different. 15 cars for Nashville. one more than last year at least. Last year had 14. One crashed in practice and withdrew. And I came on the show, and you guys know I try to be as positive as I possibly can. But last year, I literally could not find any positives in last year's race at Nashville. I just couldn't. It wasn't good. It wasn't. The 18 of Sammy Smith won by 8 seconds at Nashville. Not Nashville Superspeedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds. A track that's just over a half mile. And he won by 8 seconds. It was kind of hard to watch. He led 156 of the 200 laps last year. Jake Finch only led the other 44. It was a 3-car race. Only 5 cars finished on the lead lap. Only 10 cars finished overall of the 14 who started. It wasn't very good. It just really wasn't. The one thing I will say about this year's race rather than last year's, the field looks a lot better. And, we said the same thing about Dover. Yeah, Dover only had 15 cars, but an actual solid field of 15 cars that we had legitimately 6 winners. And while last year's race at Nashville legitimately only had 4 real probably people who could win that race, Sammy Smith, Jake Finch, Taylor Gray, and Mason Mingus. This year's entry list actually has a list of people that, again, could actually win this race. We'll go through the whole entry list, and then we'll give our winners' picks. The 1 of Jake Finch, he is back in his own car this weekend under Phoenix Racing. The 6 of LeVar Scott, of course. The 10 of Tim Monroe. The 11 of Zachary Tinkle. The 12 of Stephanie Moyer. She is back. Of course, the 15 of Sean Hingorani. The 18 of William Sawalich. New driver in the 20. I'm going to botch this name. Gio Ruggiero will be in the 20. So he'll be making his debut. Luke Fenhouse in the 28, of course. Rita Goulet in the 31. Brad Smith in the 48. Tanner Arms in the 95. Dale Shearer in the 98. Brayton Laster, the pizza man, other pizza man, will be making his ARCA East debut in the 01. And Nate Moeller in the 06 for Peterson. Now, of that entry list, we actually do have, like I said, some competitive cars like Dover. In terms of cars that actually have a legit chance at winning this race, you got to look at the 28 of Luke Fenhouse, the 20 of Gio, the 18 of William, the 15 of Sean Hingorani, the 6 of LeVar, and the 1 of Jake Finch. Again, 6 legitimate cars that have a chance at this win. I'm not just going to give it to the 18 again, because we saw, I just mentioned earlier in the show, at Kansas, and we definitely saw it at Dover, and we kind of saw it at Pensacola. The 18 is definitely not as strong. Did the 18 lead every lap at Pensacola? Yes, but he had to work for it. The 28 was right there on his bumper the last 40 laps. One mistake, and the 28 would have passed him. I also attribute to just dirty air. So, compared from last year's entry list, definitely a lot better. The starting parks in this race, I would expect it to be the 10 of Tim Monroe. Brad might actually try to run the whole race because, again, he's trying to get laps on that Ford. The Ford is kind of a new car. He wants to get laps on it, so I could actually see him trying to go in the whole distance. Dale Shearer, he wants to run the whole race. Again, the reason why they didn't run at Pensacola was an engine issue. Reason why they parked so early at Dover, Dale, again, Dover's its own animal. It's a very hard track to really drive at a slow pace. This track will be a little bit easier for Dale, so I would actually expect Dale to run the whole race. Brayton Laster will be a starting park. Moeller will be a starting park. Rita, I know Rita's going to attempt the full race, but I don't think she'll make the whole race. And I think that's it. I think of the 15, I think probably 11 will probably go the distance. Don't count out Tim. Hey, if Tim Monroe's running the whole race, that's awesome. Because every time Tim runs the whole race, he does a great job. So if he's running the whole race, that'd be awesome. I love Tim. Finally got to meet him at Kansas. Lovely guy. He looked really stressed out, though, because he had to change a fuel cell in the 66. So, but yeah, very solid field of cars in terms of who's running the whole race. But like I said, the 18 showing weakness. We talked about that at Dover. He was not the fastest car by any stretch, and actually wasn't even the second or third fastest car. Yeah, I think he still got up for a third or fourth place finish, but definitely was not the fastest car. Jake Finch dominated Dover. And as we check the point standings coming into this race, William Sawalich does lead the points, but by 1 over Jake Finch. Luke Fenhouse is only 7 points behind. LeVar Scott's only 11. Zachary Tinkle's only 15. And Sean Hingorani's only 16. I'm telling you, when we get to these combo races that are expected to have over 25 plus cars, that opens up this East Championship completely wide open. I do believe Jake Finch is indeed running for the East Series Championship. At this point, I don't know why they wouldn't. They're going to be at Bristol either way. The combo races would be great experience for him. I hope he does, because it would make the East Series Championship battle more fun. But literally, Sawalich, Finch, and Fenhouse, they've all completed the same amount of laps. Their average finish this season is 2.5, 2, and 2.5. They've ran the same amount of laps, completed the same amount of miles. Those cars are virtually even. And for Pinnacle Racing Group in their very first year outing to be this competitive is also very impressive at the same time. So you look at the last year's race and you compare it to this year's car count. Yeah, it's only 15 cars, but I definitely think we're in for a better race for sure. Because Dover was still a pretty decent race for only 15 cars. And again, it's like what I said at Dover. You can't go into this ARCA race expecting a race like that's capable of 40 cars. You have to look at this race and judge it, not by 40 cars. You have to judge the race by 15 cars. That's how you have to judge this race. And if you judge that race by 15 cars, you might actually find yourself enjoying the race. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I'm not going to pick the 18 of William Sawalich. I'm actually going to go with Jake Finch again. He is my winner's pick. And my underdog pick for this race, I'm actually going to go with Zachary Tinkle. I'm going to go with Zachary Tinkle because he's been pretty dominant, pretty good so far for Andy Hillenberg. And one last story that I'm going to tell you guys, kind of a fun thing that I was told. Nate Moeller told me this at Kansas, and I thought I would share it. Guys, remember the Dodge, the blue Dodge that eventually turned into the white Dodge for Peterson Motorsports, right? That car ran its last race in the fall 2019 race with Tim Richmond driving. They ran a throwback to Fred Lorenzen. Unfortunately, they didn't finish the race due to a transmission issue. Tim showed me some pictures of the Nate showed me some pictures of the car. Unfortunately, I respected his privacy. I did not post them publicly. He was didn't want me to, and of course, I respect that. But he was kind enough to show them to me, and the Dodge body is gone off the car, unfortunately, is scattered in pieces. I don't know if they threw it away. I wish they would have sold it. I know someone would have bought that nose. But the Dodge chassis makes its return this weekend. Yes, the Dodge is what they are calling it. The Toyota Dodge will be making its debut this weekend. Yeah, I know it's a starting park, but they're really kind of using it as a shakedown. They're going to run more practice laps than the actual race laps. But yes, kind of a fun little thing for you guys. The Dodge is what they're calling it, the Toyota Dodge. It's a Dodge chassis with a Toyota body. Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. So Peterson Motorsports, never count them out in terms of race cars. Why do you guys think I love this series so much? We got a Dodge chassis with a Toyota body. How can you not love that? Like, come on. How can you not love that? Seriously, I love this series. Where else are you going to see that? A Dodge chassis with a Toyota body. I love it. Where else are you going to see Andy Hillenberg's team running a Dodge motor with a Ford body? I love this series so much. But yeah, so if you want to cheer on the 06, even though they're a starting park, just know that that's a Dodge chassis. And that car was the old blue, it was the old blue Dodge. It was an ex-Ganassi car It started out its life in 2003, and Ganassi ran with the 42 of Jamie McMurray. It was sold to Allgaier Motorsports, Justin Allgaier's team. Allgaier I don't know if Allgaier himself ran the car, but remember Rob Brent? Remember Rob Brent from the early 2010s? He ran that car. It was numbered 36. Okay, so they ran that car. Peterson got a hold of it. It was the blue Dodge. You remember the blue Dodge that Con Nicolopoulos ran? That was that car. And then they painted it white, mostly for Tim Richmond to run. Alex Clubb did a race in it, but Tim Richmond ran the car most of the time, and it is now a Toyota. So how about that? How about that? Gotta love it. You gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. Oh, yeah. But overall, I think we're in for a fun race. The payouts for this race, we'll go over it very quickly. First place is $5,000, of course. 15th is $1,175. At the top three finishers meet all the contingency awards. First place at maximum can be $12,750. Second, $6,325. And third, $4,050. But again, that's all if all contingency awards are met. Live Saturday, May 13th, so this weekend, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Flow Sports. Or CNBC on Sunday, May 21st at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, I'll be doing live tweets. So if you guys don't have Flow, you guys can just follow my live tweets to get all the racing action, or also just follow the ARCARacing.com or ARCA Racing Twitter account. The one thing I do love about it is even for the people who don't have Flow, the ARCA Racing Twitter account really gives you all the good moments. Really still gives you all the good moments. So, yeah. Again, our pick is Jake Finch. Underdog pick is Zachary. Lost connection there for a second. We're back. We're good. So, yeah, we will be back next Tuesday for the ARCA Racing podcast for our Nashville review. And we will be back on Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday for our review, preview and review of NASCAR backmarker battles. So, long show, guys. Long show. But glad for everyone who tuned in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. And we will catch you all next Tuesday for the ARCA Racing podcast. But I hope to see all of you on Thursday as well. So enjoy the rest of your Thursday night, guys. I'm getting out of here, and we'll catch you all real soon. Starting Park Car, signing off. So long, guys.